one day it'll be smooth sailing and we'll actually get this
Oh
going.
shit, we are live.
Nice.
Yes. That's
Fantastic.
cool. We should say welcome everyone to 2024. Welcome, happy New Year, and it's obviously a new season. It's not New Year, New Me. This is same Lore Masters, same drivel and crap.
That's right, baby.
Welcome everyone.
Andy's
And
no, yes, he is.
Oh yeah.
What?
Hello. Well, let's be a bit more big energy about that. Hello everyone. Thank you,
Hello.
Thank you. Good to see you all again. And today's a bit of a interesting topic. And no, it's not because we're feeling lazy. It's just generally because there's a certain link or theme between all four of us here. Is that we all love and mostly earn a living through Warhammer. So we love Warhammer, and we just want an opportunity to rant about it and just kind of get into sort of maybe even a little bit of like how we got into it, our stories, and just generally what actual aspects we like about it. Because as much as if you probably see all of our channels, we'll very much have a different outgoing sort of production of content around just one little hobby, and we'd obviously like to talk about what makes that special for all of us. I do think Colin's starting us off with a good old question of the week here, because we had something a bit special before at the time of recording Christmas. So we got I believe that was for the Belisarius Call episode, for people want to go check that out. And what was it, Colin, that we had on the question of the week before?
I will bring that up, but first I'd like to say two things.
Ooh.
Dante, thank you for the 1,000 CLP, and
Yep.
DJ,
Thank you,
please,
Dante.
I'm gonna be outside of your fucking house. The bed is
Oh.
made. What are you on about? It is made. I'm not
What was it?
ironing my fucking blanket. It's made.
And you literally, before we started, were like, I'm going to move the camera slightly so people don't bitch
yeah.
about
I
my...
moved it a bit. I'm sorry that there's some pillows sticking out and the bag that my dogs run rampant on.
Absolute heresy. I don't know.
Christ. Anyway,
Someone said
question.
they're going to eat a hat at some point as well earlier in the comments. So if someone needs to eat a hat, we'll make sure that happens. No eggs.
Question of the week, so I don't keep getting railed for my bed. From Bone Trade. Hashtag curl me up. I just want a second working pancreas to flex on Colin. That one, I did name myself Pancreas No Work, the channel, and that is my Xbox gamer tag, so I can't really get upset about it. But also screw you.
Hashtag branding.
To be roasted about your medical history on the internet, it just hits.
It is a little funny. The next one is from Miles Upshur, 9869. My bad if I said that wrong.
What's that from? Miles Upshur. That's a game or something.
Might
I'm
be.
going to check that. Hold on.
Sounds like the setup to a
Miles up your
Upshur, I barely know her.
Outlast. That's what it's from. Miles is the main character from the Outlast video games. Nice.
Too scary for me.
Neat. Yeah. Too spooky. Curl me up. I'd get the same upgrade Remembrancer Mercedie Oleton used. Andy, do you know who that is?
Mercedes Oleton.
The Emperor's Children book?
Yeah, she does the whole thing where when they go to confront Rogel Dawn, they're like, Horus is a traitor, yo. And he's like, what did you say? And she's like, no, I've recorded it with my eyeballs and you can see what I've seen with my implants. And then they connect her to a table and they show them massacring the remembrances. So you're like, yeah, kind of just a webcam for your eyes, I guess.
Mercedes Oleton she's the one from Horus Rising, where she's the dark-skinned woman who has she has the odd-shaped skull. They even say
probably
in the
on
book,
account of the GoPro she has in her brain.
And unfortunately, she gets possessed by Samus and dies, which is sad. In the later books.
Poor Loken just gets tortured.
I know, it's not good.
Mr. Miles Upshur would use this in order to upload 10 terabytes of Catgirls and VTubers directly to his brain.
Okay, all right.
We are starting the new year off well.
Get him out of here. You disgust me, but thank you also for commenting.
You would upload artificial schizophrenia directly into your cortex.
I guess so.
And the last one is a short, sweet, and simple. Edmund the Spiffing 2920. Chrome me up. You just SpongeBob's muscles. I used to be
Wait,
a
what?
whip before
That's
Anchor
a-
Arts.
that's awesome.
Now I'm a jerk and everybody loves me.
How old is that episode now? Oh my
Oh God,
An
over
old one.
20 years.
Also, shout out to Glor because Eli got us into it, and now I can't get it out
The
of my
bottom,
head. and
the
it's
bottom.
annoying. The
At the
bottom.
bottom too.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, it went pretty hard.
Meow, meow, meow. Gary hit them with
Yeah,
them.
no.
Meow, meow. Gary hit them with them.
Squidwalk carrying every song for real.
It's
Dude,
great.
I'm
But although I think Larry the Lobster still has the best tune.
Oh yeah, I love his. I think Larry's song is my favorite. Dumbbell.
That was dumb hard.
Oh,
That's a
that's a
dumb bell.
dumbbell.
Bong. Yeah, it's great.
Speaking of
Anyways,
speaking of Warhammer stuff, though.
yes, now Hal just accept
Yes, and so particularly if you're actually listening live at the time, feel free to comment things that you like, particularly about Warhammer, or dare I say, love about Warhammer, because we'll definitely sort of rhyme in and chip in on that. But we are starting off with perhaps the silliest goofball amongst all of us. That aged me. That comment. Wow. Colin, why do you love Warhammer?
We're just gonna start maybe a controversial take, and it's not about elves. I'm not doing that yet. I will, but it's not even about the lore. I think that underappreciated the models Warhammer has. I think that especially we're lore channels. It's easy to forget that. Damn, this is all in service to some tabletop models, and those models are pretty great. In fact, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I think 95% of all the models Games Workshop has put out are pretty kick-ass. You might think, you're an Eldar player. What the hell are you talking about? Half of your range is older than you. Hear me out. Hear me out. I think the reason you can complain about the models so much is because they don't exist in a vacuum. Like, you compare them to other models. So, I wake up, I look at the Space Marine catalog. It's 5 million models, all updated yesterday. I look at the Eldar catalog. Half of them are older than me and a little bit aged. But in a vacuum, you put that model down and it's gorgeous.
It's
like
awesome.
the Warp Spiders, compare those to any updated thing. Those are old as hell, made out of resin. Fine cast is a crime against nature. But the model is so good. And just look it up.
Eli's gonna sing at any point right now. Just be like, yes.
I'm gonna cool him right now. Holy frick!
Oh no.
Colin's preaching right now, dude.
It's
Oh
too
my
early to
God.
drop that kind of angsty attitude in there.
Although I gotta admit, there was a comment really early on in the stream that said Eli in his supervillain chair. I'm like, yeah, that's.
We do actually have a quick donation here
Yep.
by Melted Phoenix.
Thank you.
Thank you. He says, Merry
Thank
Christmas
you.
and Happy New Year. You guys always stream during the first couple of hours of my workday, so I never really get to catch these. So guess you took a day off of work to watch a stream. No, you
Hell
didn't.
yeah.
You...
Hell yeah.
Nice.
And thank you for the donation as well.
Thank
And
you
Happy
very
New
much.
Year to you too. Merry Christmas.
But,
Continue
yeah.
on, Colin. Continue.
Declan Gray put a good. Old models don't equate bad models. Like, obviously,
That's right.
it would sure be nice if a lot of the models got updated. And I'm not saying they've never put out a bad models. The Red Terror model is, I think, one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It's just a dog shit model. But most of them, like the models they have, it's like they look bad because they're compared to the updated new stuff that's putting out. Almost every model in GW is pretty good. And it all looks like Warhammer. I would say there's very few models they put out where it's like generic sci-fi whatever.
Mhm.
Like everything, it's like you look at it and go, if you're familiar with Warhammer, you're like, easy spot. That's a Warhammer mini right there. I don't even have to
Leagues of
think about it
Votann.
anymore. Look,
Leagues of Votann.
Yeah.
that's why I said
Yeah.
almost. I might have been thinking about them while I was talking.
Yeah.
Look, they could use a little bit more or less dwarf, depending on if you're me or
They
Hal.
just need a book, at least one book,
They
and
do
we'll be
need
on the
some
way.
lore.
Yeah.
Everyone needs a book at this point, though. I think,
Mhm.
well, I guess at the end of the day, the whole thing is books are there to sell the models, and Colin's right. The models are the absolute centerpiece, and winners love them.
Even though, like, with that though, their models, I don't think they're bad looking. I think they're a bit generic and don't quite have that Warhammer touch. But even among that, they don't look bad. I would argue, at least. Like, I don't think you look at a Votan model and go, man, that's hideous and disgusting. I hate looking at
No.
that. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it could be a little bit, more unique, could be a bit better,
Yeah.
but in terms of quality, it's like, it's a good model.
You know, maybe I'm slightly unfair, but because if it was any other company that was making models with that much detail and consistency, you would still be like, wow. But then
Yeah, and
again,
that's
my Warhammer gauge is a bit off.
yeah. Well, I think that's like kind of what I'm saying too. Like, it's because this is their whole thing. Obviously, they're held up to a higher standard. But in a vacuum, like I was looking through the the D&D website, just like curious, like what do their models look like? They're decent, but they don't have anything that like is like, this is Dungeons and Dragons. Like, this
Yeah.
is any fantasy setting in the history of the universe, which arguably also you could say that's their point too. Like, they just want you to think fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons uses for anything. But Warhammer is like, damn, these models are, I don't know, some special. And
I mean,
they're minis. You can use them for anything. Like, realistically speaking, you buy some Imperial, spearmen. Those could be Town Guard for whatever your Dungeons and Dragons campaign or Pathfinder, whatever the hell.
and I must admit, the recent Warhammer store anniversary Votan model, where it's like a guy with like a runic sword. I said because Arthur Bones, he really loves them, and I was like, I'll buy that, then I'll send it to you, and I sent it to him. He's like, that's really cool, but it's like, oh, it's a shame some of their coolest models are so limited. Like, you can only buy them on the 1 year anniversary or the year anniversary of a shop in your local area. That's a bit of a shame.
That Tau Ethereal model. There's another model.
Oh.
That thing looks awesome.
The thing. What would you call that? The thing.
Virgin Gatherer.
Jeez,
Those are the Warhammer stores.
No, I just saw those. I seen all the memes of like if you go in any like subreddit, like Tau players do get it bad because the amount of people who are just going on and then like, oh,
man.
my little poor boy had dropped him as a baby and now he plays Tau. It's just like, it's so mean.
Poor
By the
Tau
way,
plays.
Dude,
Lelouch Ryu donated $5 Australian, I believe, and
Thank
said,
you.
just tuned in.
Thank you.
And here to derail the conversation, can I get some Bok in
Bok.
chat? But
Bok,
seriously,
Bok.
love
Get
your
some Bok.
content. Keep up the good work. Bok, 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 Bok. I hate Saurus. I hate them.
but since
go,
people were expecting it, the elf models, of course, are a cut above the rest. Hey, don't you? New year, new me. That's some BS right there. New me, I'm the same. I have not changed.
Crimson Glory is
Look at it,
already
don't-
back.
What?
Oh my god, Crimson Glory.
is back.
Oh,
Crimson
fuck you,
Glory.
Crimson.
Happy New Year, brother.
Love you.
I almost broke my
Oh.
back. Jesus. I've been bedridden from the flu since the first of the month. Flu. I'm on that with you too, mate. And I had my car battery die, but the Lord Grimes crew always lifts me up. Hope yours New Year's going better than mine. Love your Crimson Glory. We hope you get better, brother.
Yeah.
And
Emperor protect you. We hope you have a speedy recovery. Hal's suffering a bit from flu as well, I believe. So,
I
we
mean,
feel ya.
the Emperor didn't protect. We can always pick on Zinch next if you're
Sorry.
thinking. Yeah. And also, Brian Isaacs gave $5. He says Votan models are missing a key component when using barricades: a box.
A
A metal box.
Metal
A
boxes.
metal boxes.
Thank you. Love you long time.
Speaking of,
Thank you
speaking of
both.
car battery, quick tangent. My car lately has been sounding. You know when a lawnmower you don't quite pull it all the way enough and it doesn't start.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of my car right now.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, dude, my
It
car
starts-
runs off of the grace of God alone.
To be fair, recently my laptop, which I edit with, if I am not careful, it does make like a jut, like. I'm like, oh no, please don't die. I need you to make videos.
It's just like maybe there's a YouTuber only experience about when you first send a video to render and your computer is basically wanting to take off and leave Earth because it's like
Yeah. It's like it goes from and it goes and you're like, oh no.
Uh-oh.
never have
please
I
keep going.
stressed my setup so much than trying to render, particularly recently on my channel, a 12-hour video.
Yeah. Anytime you do
My
a
God.
compilation, oh, it's stressful.
That was it probably hates me,
Speaking
justified.
of hate, that fucking DJ Beast, I hate that you're one of the funniest people in the chat and it's always aimed at me. It's aging like a fine glass of milk. Yeah, it is.
To all the
he's
Tau
always on
haters
it.
in chat, to all the Tau haters
Yeah.
in chat, I want to,
Hell
Flex my
yeah.
3rd edition Tau Codex, 5th edition, whatever.
Oh, I
Yeah.
do like those older edition ones. What's the one? What's the Ultramarines classic Codex cover, which has the chaplain on the the left hand side, and then there's the dreadnought on the right, and they're all like
Oh.
lined up in a row.
Good. I like the one where he's just blowing the brains out of the Chaos Marine from 5th
Mm.
edition.
Mm.
Solid choice.
We'll have to do a tier list of like all codex, like literally every codex art ever.
Like,
Look
oh,
at
yeah,
that one.
the
like,
epic rap battle
what the
codex
heck?
first.
How could you hate on these MFs, dude? Look how cool these are.
It is pretty
Oh my
sick.
gosh.
I'm with you,
Sorry.
Eli. I like the Tau. I'm the
Thanks,
Xeno
bud.
man. I believe me. I get it. But
Oh, we
speaking
just
of
start. Yeah, just starting on Eldar.
Eldar,
or
and
Elves.
look. No one likes Ynnari lore because GW has killed it since its birth.
Yeah.
But the Yunkarn model, that thing is gorgeous. Like, it is beautiful. Kane's new model, again, GW doesn't like Kane very much. He has got a win-loss record only matched by me playing Counter-Strike. Not great. But that new avatar, oh, there he is.
Yeah,
But that
Kane.
Avatar of Kane is great, and it goes on into fantasy. Alariel, Teclis, and AOS, great models. Tyrion, and Age of Sigmar, or not Age of Sigmar, fantasy. He's a little more basic because he's not a god, but he's a fucking cool dude with a cool horse, cool sword, cool armor, good stuff. Just obviously it's not just them. Plenty of models are beautiful. I think that's honestly, a big part of why I love Age of Sigmar so much is because the modeling team for that game is off the rails.
For real.
I don't know what, like, they must be in like two different buildings where it's like the 40k team and the Age of Sigmar team, and the Age of Sigmar team are smoking something
I
because
think
they're
Something
going a
good.
bit. They're just like, yeah, just chuck a beetle in it for some reason. Something
Looks
make
awesome.
it weird.
It's so awesome.
But I think I did read somewhere that more like soft confirmed that when GW like modelers want to branch out and be creative and not work within a mold, they basically tell them, all right, go work on Age of Sigmar, go nuts.
Mhm.
Because
Makes sense, yeah.
40k's got a kind of a pretty solid identity that by this point, whereas Age of Sigmar is a lot newer, a lot more time to grow. So it's that's part of why I imagine. But dude, there's so many models. Like I
Those
got
ground
I'm
marines.
looking
When
at some-
when those Skaven Age of Sigmar models, like when the range refresh of Skaven comes in,
it's gonna be.
it's game over.
I mean, you can like towards the end times, you can tell some of those models were probably made with AOS in mind, with it coming out soon. Like Thanquol's model is bigger than like.
I swear I just
Pit
saw you
Abomination.
shudder for a moment there. Just-
Is it his vinegar strokes?
it's the thought of Skaven new models, like, oh my god,
Oh, dude, that
my
Yeah.
bank.
By the way, Neon LF Graves donated €2 saying Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Happy New Year,
Happy New Year,
Neon.
brother. Thank you
That's
so
like
much.
100
Thanks for
Canadian
joining us.
dollars.
I know.
Damn.
concerning thing to make.
Imagine
Listen,
how much poutine you could buy.
Plenty.
everyone
Plenty.
voting on this poll. I understand insolent pump noises are worrying. I'm much more concerned if my car starts making loud, unfamiliar noises than my pump.
Oh,
my-
Neon Graves again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Neon Graves.
5,000
Like,
Canadian
old world is
dollars.
What are you on about, sir? Thank you for that. But also, dude, everything is sold out.
Yeah.
I know what
yeah,
he means,
for real.
though. I think he means in terms of GW have not given it their full weight behind it, if you know what I mean. Like, it
I'm
feels like
Yeah,
an
I
army
guess,
refresh
I'm
rather
a
than
bit
a
out of the loop,
setting
but
launch.
I've seen Bretonius stuff and Tomb Kings.
Yep, and they made
Yep.
rules for other armies, but of course, the two armies that I've kept for the last decade are phase 2 armies and are in PDFs and are not getting a book this edition. So I'll just go freaking whatever.
Salty.
Whatever. It's,
There's stuff that could have been done better. Always, but I don't think it's dead on arrival. I mean, like I'm looking at the store right now, and the first two options like on the shop are you can't buy them; they're out of stock.
yeah.
It's
My
the
buddy
rule
checked
book.
it at. Sorry, you keep going. Yeah,
so-
my buddy checked it at like 11:30, and it came out at 11 our time, and it was sold out.
Right.
So I think it's doing
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, like there's a lot like they could have kept the ranges for dark elves, ogres, and stuff. But also, on the other hand, you can still get those models pretty easily. All of them are in AOS. From a rules point, it does suck. Those are legacy armies, but in terms of models, you can still buy them. They're just over an Age of Sigmar. Yeah, you have. Or what?
What was that? I heard a
Recasts.
whisper from somewhere. I don't know where that is. We don't support piracy or any of those things on Law Crimes.
Cetra's back. I mean, you can't be angry. Cetra's back.
Yeah, true.
That's it.
Nah,
True,
yeah,
so
that
true.
fixes all of my depression is immediately gone. The fact that Cetra is imperishable, so I too must be imperishable for Cetra. Absolutely,
Exactly.
my beating heart for that bony skeleton man who will not die.
But, that's
Calcium King.
Calcium King.
What one more little tangent for the models before we can pass it on. Just the sheer variety of them is also great. Like again, some are definitely more loved than others. Space Marines. I think it's clear who GW's favorite child is. Same for the Stormcast over in AOS. But even like underappreciated factions, like let me pull up the web store real quick. Hey, listen,
I think Trippy Imp Boy says no vampire counts as the worst, and that's dead ass true. because
Yeah,
that
seriously,
is-
they're in the
vampire
old
counts.
world.
And-
Like, what the heck?
yeah, that is
And
tragic.
by the way, Jeremy Golden has donated $5 saying, question for the group, best kit to build. Mine is Wraith Lord or the Sky Runners.
Ooh.
Thank you. That's a hard question. What the
And
heck?
that was their first
Best-
super, I believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
In terms of easiest, I put together Gotrek was pretty easy for me to assemble.
Probably
Most-
a Rhino tank for me. Honestly, that's the easiest I can
I'd
think
say-
of.
Oh man.
Unless
most-
unless someone else had issues with that. I don't know.
I haven't put one together. Most fun to
No.
put together for me though was probably the Wraith Knight I got. That was fun because it's got a lot of options. You can bend the knees and make it all sorts of different ways.
Honestly, just me, Primaris, anything that doesn't require like you have to join like something holding two-handed. Anything that's
oh my
two-handed. They
gosh,
don't have
dude.
like the issue where they have to get
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it's-
shoulders and then
every
the arms.
Eldar
are, like,
model ever is just like agony
Dark-
to put together.
Dark Elder Incubi are the worst with
I-
that.
I mean, as someone who's literally just getting back into the model stuff now that I have a space to do some painting and stuff, I've recently discovered that there are push-click models.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
of them.
Are they very limited, or there's like...
Push to fit
Those are
is
pretty
usually
limited.
edition
Right.
launches.
Yeah, the starter box.
Um,
yeah.
such as Leviathan had a lot of. I mean, I bought some Stern Guard for that. I don't know why I did that. They're so trash right now.
It's okay.
But but they looked cool, and I will suffer through that. My bad. But that push to fit is pretty. I mean, no glue.
Hmm.
Honestly, I would actually. I know people complain, like maybe Eli will probably disagree with me on this about how the posing is obviously like back in the day you could do multi posing or pose it as you want. When I'm trying to get things tabletop ready, I'm really not trying to make it that interesting. When I did
Right.
Kill Team though, I have thought then like Kill Team models. I thought, oh, I need to make that special, but because it's only like 5 models, or it's an individual. But in making an army, I'm like, at the beginning, but towards the end of the army, you're kind of like, okay, I don't care as much anymore. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to look
like,
as good.
real.
I did see a post today that was like a guy on Reddit talking about he bought a Death Company like kit, and it was just there were no alternate weapons. They're all in one pose. It's like this is trash. I could get intercessors and I could make them look Death Company rather than buying this specific bunch of them that I can't change the poses, I can't change the weapons, blah blah. And I was like, as a layman, I was like, they look cool though. I think that guy's got a big gun. That's kind of cool.
I just realized we got this.
Oh,
Colin's dying.
Loud diabetes
Sugar.
noises. Pardon me.
I just realized we got this far in as well. We didn't mention what the new question of the week was.
Oh,
Did we
heck.
yet? Wednesday hashtag love Warhammer. So you meant to just sort of give us, why you love Warhammer, why you've kind of gotten into it, perhaps a nice story about it. Yeah, just share with the boys. Share with the boys. This is a safe space for your Warhammer stories. Other than that, I guess Colin, do you have a?
My last little thing was just variety. Like there's a lot of armies that could use more. like saying that, but like no, I don't think it's that controversial statement. I think the sisters could use you could use a little bit of variety in the range. That being said, there are 36 options on their store page. That is 36 different varieties of thing you can do.
Mm.
And I think like obviously one of them is going to be the codex, and a couple might be like upgrade screws. So like bump it down a little bit, but that's a lot. Like that is a lot of models. Like obviously compared to some of the armies that have a ton, but in a vacuum, it's like you have any army you pick. Like Fire Slayers, I pulled them up right now. Not counting their codex, that's 17 things you can buy. 18 with the codex. That is 17 varieties of naked redheaded dwarf you can get. That is a lot. Like I understand for like as an army, yeah, they could use a lot of different things that they don't have, but like terms of just getting models, that is a lot of variety.
I think Crimson Glory, he's also put thank you again, Crimson Glory. He's put
$2.
I'm a mechanic, I can help with car issues. Thank you.
But can you fix Colin's insulin pump that's just beeped right now?
No,
That's
that
the
beeping
question.
was it working as intended. It let me know I need some insulin.
Or was it?
Oh.
It was. If it's not working as intended, then I'm going to collapse when I go
If you
low
turn
in a couple
blue,
minutes.
all of a sudden we'll know why.
Yeah.
If you ask to get drowsy, God, I can't even speak. If you get drowsy or slurred
But-
speech, boys, he's not drunk. He's just
But I get what
needs
you
insulin.
mean, Colin. It's like, yeah, like any other tabletop army building game, it'd be like, oh, this is a ton of options, but because it's Games Workshop and there's so much, it feels limited compared to what else, like Space Marines. It's like there's a billion options. So like, yeah, and like you say, in a vacuum, it's a big thing.
To put it in perspective, Warhammer Bros, there's Lord of the Rings armies with one unit. Unit.
Oh,
And they're awesome, but yeah.
which faction, may I ask?
The Wild Men of Dunedain, the Wozes.
Oh, the Dunedain. Oh.
And then like Ghosts, the Dead Men of Dunharrow have like 4 units maybe, but you can make an entire army out of the 4 units, which is what's cool about the game. But
You're just gonna go like, haven't I seen you somewhere before? It's like, no, I'm a different dead man. It's fine.
Yeah, we should say, like, as Warhammer fans, we do kind of not realize how spoiled we are in terms of like how. Again, like if you look on, particularly online on social media stuff, it's very much we're a little bit wet wiped sometimes. We're kind of as a community constantly complaining.
Yeah, but I will continue to complain about Noise Marines for the rest of my life.
But I mean,
my
Chief and
my point wasn't that don't complain about it. There's a lot of things we can do better with their models. It's just that in a vacuum, Warhammer models are great. Yeah. The only two I've seen comparable are one. I think it's called Flames of War, which I don't count because it's a World War II game.
Yeah, it's real life.
It's like, the militaries have a lot of stuff in them. You don't get credit for that because you're just copy and pasting a history book.
Yeah.
Models are cool, but again, you took a picture of a German and American soldier and made it a mini.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a Panzer tank.
What it must be to live as a person who like gets up in the morning, has their coffee, and then they're into like the World War II miniature style, and they see like a miniature Sherman tank, and they nut emotionally from that. What a wild way to live. But speaking of, if you have nothing else, Colin, I do have a good leap off there.
It's just there's that, and then there's just one like Kings of War, and that also has a lot of variety. That's called not Warhammer, is what I like to call it. It's which valid, but
Have you guys seen that? There's this weird tabletop where all the models are like really big. It's called like Conquest or something. I saw it being played on like a tournament the other day. It's like they've got square bases and they have like dinosaurs and stuff.
Of Kings, does that sound?
Maybe, I don't know. One of the models is like a big Stegosaurus with like guys on it and stuff. You could probably take models from that and make Exodites though, which would be cool.
But then again, I just love the fact that like recently GW has on like the epic scale Horus. I was like, you're going so big. We're going so small.
Yeah.
Look at this little guy. He's a space marine. Look at this Titan. He's only so big.
Epic is really
Tiny.
cool, actually. Oh,
yeah.
It's epic.
I went to GriffCon last year and I saw some people, they had the minis, and I was like, how did you do the Lunar Wolves icon That small.
I think it's
That's
easier
genius.
because once it's that small, it can be a little bit shite, and then you can.
But it
when
was
you're
so
standing
cr-
far back.
The lines were so crisp. I'm like, you
Mm.
talented buggers. How dare you?
Oh,
Do
there's
you?
my apologies, Hal. There's one more thing I want to remember. This is
No,
a
keep
random tangent. This is God, these models made me so angry when I found them. They're not Warhammer at all. I was just looking up like just cool mini war games. Like I did a video. It's like, hey, look at the fucking mini games that aren't Warhammer. These are cool minis. I found one of them. I can't find it again. But it was called like Byzantine Infantry or something. And it was a dude on a horse. That's not infantry, first of all. That is cavalry.
Yeah.
And like 9 other guys. I'm like, this is, first of all, this is like $200 for 10 minis. You are out of your mind. And they're not big minis. They're standard infantry. Second of all, this isn't the Byzantine Empire. This is the Elder Scrolls. This is the Skyrim Empire minis. This is not the Byzantine Empire. You are not a historical war game. This is fantasy. Don't call them Byzantine. That made me so angry when I saw that for no discernible reason. I just pissed me off.
Baby rage.
I was baby mad. I was baby mad hard there. Dude. I was angry when I saw that.
Oh,
It's not
yeah.
Byzantine. This is Skyrim. It's expensive, and the models look like shit.
Damn.
The Skyrim models are cool. The Elder Scrolls
are
line.
cool.
Those
To be
are
fair,
cool.
I did see a new place I'm in. Like there was a kid screaming, and it was like that scream of like it's not a scream. It's like got guttural like yeah. It's like visceral. And that was Colin, where it's like gurgling and like they just retch noises out, and you're like that was just like that's not Byzantine. No, like,
That's what happened. I'll
Well,
admit.
Well, speaking of something that Colin ends with talking about variety, that's actually kind of where I'm going to start my rant.
Go for it.
So why do I love Warhammer? I'm going to, as the iceberg descends, we're going to get a bit deeper, but we'll start nice and simple. The visuals. Holy crap, how iconic is the Space Marine?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like it grabs you like nothing kind of like even on just like a White Dwarf magazine, like nothing else quite has that iconic silhouette, even if you see like historical figures or anything like that.
Those thick, juicy pauldrons are just
Those pauldrons got me acting sus. Sus with a sauce. And even just then on the visual, I think of, as Colin said, the variety. I mean, just even from how different Space Marines are. I mean, obviously, just like you could say it's a color palette change from an Imperial Fist to something else, but the actual visuals of how Space Marine legions, particularly, just they're all kind of unique in their own way, and you can tell how people are drawn to different ones because, again, like each of them are so unique that they speak. Like none of us, I think any of us here have got the favorite chapter, same favorite chapter or same favorite legion because of how much those visuals like are tuned into just sort of how it resonates with you. And then I wouldn't want to neglect, dare I say neglect, just talking about Space Marines, because Xenos in Warhammer actually look pretty sick. I do have to say though, elves, unfortunately, is one of the few things I do find I'm not as drawn to. Sorry, Eldar, I mean. Elves
Everyone
actually.
has taste.
Elves
Eli
in
doing
Warhammer
finger guns
Fantasy.
at the camera, and Colin just going.
Elves in
Friendship ended
Warhammer
with
Fantasy,
Eli- with
to me.
Hal.
I love Lord of the Rings, like elven armor. Like that stuff goes hard for me. Eldar, unfortunately, I'm not as drawn to. I find it a bit too Power Rangey, and again, like
Sad.
although to be fair, in the Dawn of War, as much as this is a weird reference, Dawn of War 3, the trailer and the Banshees, the Howling Banshees in that, and like kind of have that old like desecrated like bone look.
Yeah.
That's what I always thought Eldar should be. With like it's actually like ornate old armor rather than you know, Saurus, I choose you or something, and then they pop out something. Because I can imagine them, oh God, what was the Power Rangers I was stopped watching? It was the ninja one. That's like my last cut off, just letting people know how old I am. Yeah, but aliens in Warhammer just do kind of hit hard. Like even like as like Necrons. Necrons itself is not. There's nothing utterly unique about Necrons. They're all kind of like a pop culture thing, but it's smashed together and then it becomes its own thing. And again, like the look of it, particularly like the Catan shards, as Colin was saying with the models earlier, the Catan shard of the Void Dragon, is
Goes hard.
it's a pretty like that's like a on the tabletop model. You stare at it. You can't help but
Yeah.
stare at like all Warhammer model like centerpiece models. You just can't help but stare at them. And I will go a bit deeper then into this love of Warhammer, which is my second point, which is Warhammer offers something that all other franchises can't quite be, which is it's the complete package. In terms of Warhammer has fantastic lore, fantastic, visual like models, the tabletop. You can be someone who doesn't actually have to enjoy every single part of it, and yet you can enjoy a niche within it. But then it's just there's just so much of it, and I think even particularly on the lore side, we don't know how spoiled we are for. Not every book is the best thing ever, but
Well,
we are spoiled for how well some books in this franchise are written.
How many other IPs have 400 plus books? None.
Now,
Not
every
many.
single
Unless-
Space Marine Battles book is a work of art.
Shame about the Ynnari books. Sorry, Colin.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So Sean,
The first step in the coping process is accepting.
off the copium. Sean Rant says hello, everyone. Hello, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Yeah, just Warhammer itself kind of the only downside about liking Warhammer is that all the other franchises your kind of love dies for them a little bit because you always hit an end point. Like Lord of the Rings, I'm sure many of us have loved things like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, maybe even newer like Dune and things like that. You kind of hit an end point where there's nothing more. There's no deeper, so it's just using an iceberg here. There's no deeper level to go, or like that's the end of the content. Warhammer is the thing that keeps on delivering, and if we are honest, as much as people complain, delivering high quality stuff on the regular. We are getting models pretty much every month. We get lore every couple of new novels every couple of months, and we have an enormous compendium of which even four of us here, who probably read and like delve through most of it every day, we still have so much more to go, and we are continually going on that path. I'll move it up a little bit fast because I realized I got a big. I might go on my tangent way too long.
By the way, just to give you a brief, Jeremy Gordon donated $5 and said Andy should down that beer. I will say this is actually a cider. Thank you for the donation. This is a cider.
Well, you
also,
can't down a beer now.
I'm slowly sipping it because I'm busting for a wee, and I don't want to cause extra trouble.
Guinness.
Yeah.
It even has my name on it.
Oh, that's cool. A little bit further down into this is I'm going to talk about some of my favorite novels just a little bit, just so I
Go
can
for it.
rant about how
Here we go. Now
damn
we're
good this
cooking.
is. If Andy, if you want to go off and unleash the snake, if you know what I mean.
I kind of want to hear your novels first, and then I'll go.
Well, I'll name them off. I've got Horrors Rising, 1,000 Suns, Master of Mankind, and Yarick, Pyres of Armageddon.
Okay,
As
cool.
a sort of collection that I've enjoyed as like top tier books. I'll start with
Okay.
Horus Rising. Not many people need to have a sort of reason about why this book is so good. So good. But just honestly, this book is the one of the few things that just shows you how different it is to other franchises, in which it's set the entire world and universe is set up rich and complete within one novel, and you don't have to read any of Warhammer before it. You get an idea about how big the Imperium is, the mindset of the people within it. You get introductions to characters such as Loken, Horus, and iconic people. And yeah, basically Horus Rising, great book. It's the reason that I recommend anyone who's into Warhammer to read that book or Eisenhorn. Eli, I'm just naming off a few of my favorite books just to cue you in there. Second one I said was 1,000 Suns. The reason I chose one, not everyone is as big a fan of this as I am. The reason I like this book is because it's very much, it just feels like it's the most, out of all of the books in Warhammer, like a lot of them is kind of, when people talk about like Gaunt's Ghosts and things like that, like often, early books that people talk about, that's, oh, you want to read Warhammer, read that. It's often in that way, like it's just Space Marines, it's army, it's sort of like, it's kind of following a similar formula. 1,000 Suns is one of the few books I've read where I thought this actually feels like a magical, like proper sci-fi franchise where it's there's like weird esoteric and mystery to the universe, and I just think it's a great it's a long book, I'm not gonna lie, but then and all the characters in it feel like very well-rounded characters, and some of them as much as I'm infuriated by Magnus the Red, which to be fair, it makes me feel that way because I see the downfall of his, his folly, his arrogance, and you see it, and you can actually have an opinion like that of someone because you care. It's better than, I think I like Star Wars now. The quality of like Star Wars characters is makes me want to actually yell. I tried to watch Ahsoka recently, and that honestly, again, like once you know Warhammer, you can't go back because it's just a bit too shy.
Clone Wars Ahsoka though. Hang on, Clone Wars Ahsoka.
Yeah,
that's different. Clone Wars
that's
animated. That's different. I was not even the same.
Completely unrestrained.
I meant
the
live action. Yeah,
but I mean, to be honest, I've drifted away from Star Wars since. Again, when I was young, the prequels were released, and then things like the Old Republic came out. Republic Commando, the Clone Wars, and then I was like, I don't really care as much about the movies, more of the extended universe, because that's where I find, like, I tried to get into the books about, like, oh, here's Luke Skywalker with his Sith girlfriend, and I was like, it's kind of difficult to get into, but then like, oh, Revan, that's cool.
Ooh.
Oh, what's her name? Old Republic 2.
Darth Nihilus?
Sith lady.
Oh, Kyra. Kira? So, some with a K.
Yeah, her. That lady. And there's that bit where it's like, apathy is death, and like all your friends turn against you. Like, oh, this is cool. And then the Old Republic I played, and I was like, oh, it's fine. The online and the Mamorpaga. I was like, it's fine. I played as a clone trooper because I'm edgy. But it was good.
Oh.
Or a trooper, I should say. Yeah, like, but like Warhammer has that thing where like we're spoiled for choice, and like whatever faction you like, there's stuff to delve into. Even if, unfortunately, the Inari kind of lets the side down, but oh well.
For now,
at least it's not as bad as Votann, who have no books. So
yeah,
I just had a weird.
Honestly, would you rather no books or Inari books? That's a hard choice, my brother.
That's a hard
place.
It's difficult there. I did see a meme of something recently, which was, yo, bro, wake up, it's 2006 and it's Battlefront 1 and you're in the ice caves.
Oh, so good.
I can't remember the map, but it was just like, I remember seeing that and then I was like, whoa, that took me back. Battlefront 1 and 2, the older ones. Oh, I don't know how many.
They're so good.
Felucia.
Oh,
do you know how many times as a kid I failed that opening part of the mission? We had to like defend the thing. Oh my gosh! Terrible.
Best games, some of the best games ever made.
In my childhood, and I can't forget Republic Commandos, which I think I've completed probably 5 times, and I used to do them back to back at one point because I was trying to save Sev. I'm sorry, boys, I just couldn't do it. Can't do it.
I remember when Revenge of the Sith came out in cinemas. The day or two before, the video game version came out, and I remember playing the video game, and then I went to the cinema with my sister, and I was just like, I know what's about to happen because General Grievous. But they like slightly changed some of the cinematics, where there's the bit where like in the film, General Grievous is like, activate ray shields, and then in the game, he just kind of goes, like, oh. That was a sneaky way to stop me getting some insight into what the film was going to be about. Naughty
bastards.
Yeah.
My next book I was going to talk about, which I want to really go into, which, well, not too much today, unfortunately, but Master of Mankind, Horus Heresy. This is the actual book that it just changes the entire, like the Horus Heresy is a before and after for me at this point, because it's the only book that actually delves into the mind of the Emperor of Mankind. The closest we'll ever get, probably ever. And it finally kind of acts like a massive, I wouldn't say a justification, but it goes into the fact of why the heresy is even possible. It kind of just takes him down a peg of like, he's amazing, he's incredible, whatever, but he's literally not a god. He's not all seeing, he's not all knowing. He's so close to that, but yet he's still not that. And it's like, I don't even want to talk about spoilers in the book, but yeah, some of the scenes in that book, which is the Emperor's Charge in the Webway, which is still probably one of the best written scenes in the Horus Heresy. Like they just it's literally described like the sun rises in.
Obviously, yeah, that's much
it's
as
hard
I
to
don't like that. That goes
Yeah.
hard.
It's hard to explain though, because like the entire book is just been like it's like we are just dying here, and then that one moment is it reminds like the Blackgate charge with Lord of the Rings, and that was when you hear that dun, 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 I think every dude here goes like, oh god, I gotta get my
the best
war
bit with
horn."
the Rohirrim just
Oh my god.
The ride of the
violin goes,
Rohirrim.
Ride!
Ride for
God.
ruin and the world's ending.
See, I don't even have to
Death.
say anything. The ride of the Rohirrim just gets boys sweating.
Yeah,
Just-
and that one guy on the horse going,
Oh my god.
yeah, he's gonna get him. He's gonna, and the
So
orcs shit
awesome, dude.
themselves. It's great.
God, I
Oh my
love it.
gosh. Such a
I'm
good scene.
about to watch that soon. I can't wait. And the last book I've chosen, which is Yarrick, The Pyres of Armageddon. This book it's an actual crime if this book is never like an animated thing or a movie one day. It is genuinely like the most well crafted scene setting in all of Warhammer, where you actually genuinely feel scared of orcs to a level of like it truly captures scale and how weak and pathetic humans are in this setting. And generally like that book, I can't believe how quickly like it just feel like it's a long book, but you kind of read it so quick.
Mhm.
Generally like that. Still now I get goosebumps thinking about some of the things in that book. Very cool. And so those are kind of like my 4 recommendations, which is like Horus Rising, Thousand Suns, Master of Mankind, and Yarrick, The Pyres of Armageddon. Although I should mention Eisenhorn for people just because gets people into it. And the last part I have for Warhammer, the very kind of last point I wanted to make, is the general underlying theme of Warhammer itself. And having read quite a lot of Warhammer and talking about it for a living, I feel like I'm getting to some kind of good conclusion about it, which is essentially what grimdark means. And grimdark being a gritty universe where we see like human society lives by the tenets of our very worst impulses, and yet buried beneath that like deeply oppressive and horrific, I mean, not gonna lie, also need to put this word in here, badass, in because Warhammer just is. Buried beneath that deeply horrific and oppressive thing is the smallest little bit of hope in Warhammer lore. That tiny little thing that just the smallest amount that allows people to yell and scream as they loose a las line of 1,000,000 men, because there's something at least worth dying greatly for. Dying horrifically for.
Even during the genocide of an entire planet, there's a guardsman trying to save his child or something. There's a splinter of humanity in an ocean of terribleness.
Or even in the recent The Fall of Cadia novel, when the planet is broken and they've thrown the Blackstone Fortress into it and it's cracking apart, some of the last Cadian regiments are quickly gathering dust into their canteen things to gather the last dust of Cadia as the planet breaks.
It's like
and
football fans like we're getting some of the turf from Wembley.
Honestly, it makes you have goosebumps, like things like that, like the small little things you use because you understand how crazy that impact is on the human psyche, particularly.
Isn't there? Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Wasn't there? It was a question. Wasn't there like some of the last things on Cadia was like lasgun trails firing off in the atmosphere as the planet is cracking beneath them? Like after it cracked, you could still see like the ghost of lasgun firing, and they're running out of air, but they're like, "We're going down. We're going down, swinging."
I think,
all the Imperial hate leaving my body as I read a single Imperial Guard book.
Dude, it's so hard when you.
Crimson Glory again. He says,
Thank you.
Colin, I started a personal project to take a loot bug and add a button that plays Yippee every time while I wait for Nurgle's gift to end. Best. I hope you're getting well soon, Crimson Glory. And
safe recovery.
Yeah, as I was saying, so there's like that last little sliver of hope in these like grim dark stories, and it's all people can do to hold against the tide. And the Imperium itself, its beliefs, its creeds are purposely portrayed, as much as like there's a side of Warhammer which is like, oh, for the lols, for the Imperium. is genuinely portrayed negatively
Mm.
for a reason, because the authors are trying to sort of show us that this universe is so awful, and it comes from a time in, particularly, as much as like, you know, Warhammer is quite British in its sense of like it's very depressive and
Just
Just-
tube strikes and terrible stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
because it speaks to like how the difference in wealth in like particularly the UK is like great, like, you know, it's all concentrated in a certain bracket, but not too much into that. But it's just like the Imperium itself is like, this is the result of like extreme societal backslide. It's
Mm.
you know, and you even see like you meet the Imperium like in the second, particularly like the Horus Heresy of like first, like, you know, Horus Rising and False Gods, and it's said by like the character Kirill Sinderman. He portrays like the ultimate downfall of humanity is basically when things start to be suppressed, and essentially all the things we aspire to, which are like knowledge and sort of excellence and sort of general acceptance and things, those things start to get downtrodden by charismatic figures such as like Horus. You know, basically it sort of is the repeating thing of our history of charismatic leaders sort of eventually turning on us.
Yeah.
Which is, they're not the first people in Warhammer novelists to talk about that. It's kind of a running thing. I think even Star Wars is basically that as well. Like George Lucas said, it's this, you know, the Emperor Palpatine is that. And it just shows you like how much essentially humanity is doomed to repeat history, not because of necessarily, well, also we should not forget the machinations of thirsting gods, but it's also essentially we are our own architect, our own destruction.
Well, what I find interesting leading off that point with Warhammer is like, for example, you said Star Wars. The line is very clear between, oh, the rebels are good people, the Empire is clearly bad, and there's like, it's kind of very black and white. And I know Arbiter Ian did a video a while ago. Right, you like kind of. I know Arbiter Ian did a video a while ago where he's just like, everyone's a baddie in Warhammer. But what I find interesting about it is like, you have a character like Garrow, who's like a very like righteous, valiant, good person, but he's in service to a tyrannical system, and this is pre-heresy when he's fighting. So it's like even the good characters, like I've just started Uriel Ventress, and the Mortifactors are like, hey, you're too optimistic, you think too much about like what you can do to help people. And it kind of reminds me of like The Man in the High Castle, where there are characters where it's like it's a parallel universe where the US is conquered during World War II and they have to live under the oppression. And some of the officers are like, oh, they're trying to do their best. Or the films like The Pianist with Adrian Brody. Like, there are good people who through circumstance have to serve oppressive regimes. And that's kind of, I think, one of the interesting through lines of Warhammer, where it's like, yes, the system is bombing entire planets, but like, have you seen the other guy who's like a bug that eats people? Have you seen the other guy who's like literally like a Satan worshiper and makes people into like chairs? Like, I mean, they're not good characters, but they're the best you're gonna get. And sometimes there are real gems of like, oh, if they were lucky enough to be alive in our time period, they'd be really cool politicians or soldiers or political figures. But no, they're in Warhammer, so they have to like gut orcs and also serve an oppressive regime. But they have good qualities here and there, which is
just
interesting.
Like real life, just like real life, right? People
just to the extreme.
Yeah. Like,
I think Crimson Glory here put another donation. Thank you, brother. He says, Warhammer's the British with how greedy they are. Thank you. Well, it's not really a secret, is it? It's very much a reflection of history and kind of what we are born out of. I had one last thing to finish on, which essentially is the thing that sums up Warhammer in a way which can still make me definitely feel like goosebumps, and I think everyone here probably feels a little bit the same way about it. If they've ever seen in Dawn of War the speech Gabriel Angelos gives when Exterminatus happens.
Oh yes.
And there's something unique about Warhammer, which is it happens in other franchises, but the Exterminatus is such a Warhammer. Like I just think, like if I was to describe Warhammer, it's in a way, it's just it's like cathedral Gothic ship reading out its last judgment to the mankind, to the billions who are condemned and the billions who, shouldn't be, and like this is the death of a planet, a world, its people, its cultures, memories, everything is gone in an instant, and this is for the greater workings of an oppressive empire that can't allow a resource to be misused, and it's the end, and literally the end and the death of all things.
I think I've got a slight snippet of it. It is human nature to seek culpability in a time of tragedy. It is a sign of strength to cry out against fate, rather than to bow one's head and succumb.
Yeah, it kind of
That's
like
awesome.
I think a lot of us when we first heard that. I think, have you guys all heard the Exterminatus speech bit on Dawn of War 2? I think. Damn, I still now listen to that, and that makes me like you kind of go like, oof.
I think I might have it here if it's
If it's able to play. I don't know if we get copyright.
Cyrene is about. Oh, this one's about Cyrene.
No, yeah, but
That's the one from Battlefleet Gothic 2 is the one that there's a
Battlefleet.
One of the Battlefleet Gothics when they're like, you ask what right I have to do this. I ask what right I don't have. I have to not do it.
I was like, I can't afford to let them live, isn't it? Yeah. It's because it's like you cut out the tree's root, and yet still, no matter what, it will fester again.
That's Battlefleet Gothic.
God, Warhammer, like just nothing else. Like even in as much as like I've loved Star Wars and other franchises over the years, nothing quite hits me in like that moment of where you go like,
because in Star Wars they'll blow up Alderaan, and then the new ones they blow up like 5 planets, and it's like, who cares? Because there's no humanity. It's like that's just like that's a narrative. Like we don't know any of the people that live there. We don't know what it's like, blah blah. But when someone blows up a planet in Warhammer, it's like, oh, I understand this is a terrible thing to do, but I don't have any other options. Like, oh, do we want the Tyranids to eat everyone and become stronger and kill more people? Do we want the Chaos Gods to summon a greater demon from this planet and spread out for other? Do we want the Death Guard to make a big virus and then infect more planets? Like, it's that element of fatalism. Like, we have to do this, otherwise something even worse will happen, which is kind of the charm of the setting, you know?
I think I would finish off with just describing Warhammer as badass hopelessness in a way.
Yeah, that's good.
Almost hopelessness, but
relentless nihilism.
I mean, the best way I can sum it is like, boy, it just hits different. Warhammer got me acting up, and it hits different. And again, my ever-growing hoard of model collections at this point now will just be my poor bank account. But it was fun. It was fun going down the rabbit hole. Oh, Crimson Glory, he says, as an Inquisitor once said, people don't think it be like this is, but it do. There's Colin. Dante says, what I love most about Warhammer are the lore channels. You guys are Giga Chads. Thank you, brother. Seriously, thank you for the hours of dedication. Thank you for listening to it too. We are nothing without people to listen to it, and we are very much. I don't know how everyone else feels, but we don't think of ourselves as like. I don't think of myself as a Giga Chad. More of like I'm just conveying someone else's genius. Yeah, and I hope you all enjoy it as much as we do. I think I've probably hogged it enough there though. So Eli, what do you love about Warhammer?
No, mine might be a little bit similar to what you were saying. But first, I want to agree with Colin in that controversial opinion. I actually think I like the old models a little bit more than the new models.
They got a charm, don't they?
Yeah.
Just for how much heart they have. It's just, they weren't. It's like they weren't specifically made to like be the best selling. They were made to best represent what they were representing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, bad example for Colin, I guess, but Space Wolves actually looked like Space Wolves. They weren't just blue Primaris Marines, right? And Blood Angels actually looks like Blood Angels and all that stuff like that.
I think someone said they would eat a hat if Colin said something nice about Space Wolves. So if Colin wants to jump in now and say something,
I
say something
I will remain
nice.
Silent.
The hat, dude, the hat.
I don't want to
We
eat a
didn't-
hat, and I
We
don't
didn't
want
say
to
what kind.
Space
Are we
Force.
talking like a baseball cap or like a Stetson?
Yeah, someone needs to
Or
like
a
specify the
big
hat. Is it
sombrero.
cowboy? Is it a beanie? Beanie would be worse, I imagine. That'd probably- that would
Sucking your
choke. That's a choking hazard.
Oh man.
Sorry, like keep
That's
going.
great. Yeah, but like ever since playing Lord of the Rings, I've found a new appreciation for old models, and like there's STLs for stuff all over the place, and they look like modern and nice and flashy. But there's something about just having like the metal dwarf who looks super old, but also is like super cool and charming. It's just special.
Mm.
I just really like it. In fact, may recasts. Speaking of earlier, I may be acquiring a Talarn Desert Raiders army, and
Ooh.
I actually love how awesome the old guardsmen look compared to all the
Hmm.
new guard stuff, and it's just so perfect. But speaking of how things look, I think 40K's aesthetic as a whole is what I maybe love the most. The art style and the like ridiculously over the top descriptions of things, how just terribly grim it is, but as how I was saying, the little moments of hope and heroism and good that's still left in the galaxy. Things suck in general, but overall every faction is canonically justified in what they do. As much as it sucks, but it's the truth. People don't like that, but it is very true. But that's one of my favorite parts, and I think I want to read the excerpt from what they used to put in the beginning of books. I don't know if they put this anymore, so you guys can tell me, but
They slightly altered it, didn't they? I think.
so.
Just a few words here and there.
I'm gonna read it though. It is the 41st millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor has sat immobile on a golden throne of earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of a million worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass, writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day, so that he may never truly die. Yet even in his deathless state, the Emperor continues his eternal vigilance. Mighty battle fleets cross the demon-infested miasma of the warp, the only route between distant stars, their way lit by the Astronomicon, the psychic manifestation of the Emperor's will. Vast armies give battle in his name on uncounted worlds. Greatest amongst his soldiers are the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, bioengineered super warriors. Their comrades in arms are Legion, the Imperial Guard, and countless planetary defense forces, the ever-vigilant Inquisition, and the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, to name only a few. But for all their multitudes, they are barely enough to hold off the ever-present threat from aliens, heretics, mutants, and worse. To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions, is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. There are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim dark future there is only war. There is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter, and the laughter of thirsting gods.
The
It's
laughter of
it's
thirsting
so-
gods.
Oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
it makes me emotional. It's so good. I can't. It's unbelievable.
It's good stuff.
When you read it out loud as well, because I'm sure we've all probably read it at some point
Yeah.
for our like channels and like that, and you kind of like once you finish it, you definitely go like, well, shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I know the new one is the one where it's like forget the promise of
A better future. Or
of a better
something like
future
that.
because so much has been lost, blah blah. And it's like the carrion lord on his throne. It's like the new one is more like very heavily like, don't think this is gonna get any better. This is how it is, and that ain't changing.
This is
I don't
Plateau
care
with
how many
success.
Primarchs come back; it's still terrible. So you're like, okay, fair enough. But yeah, both quotes are great. And I love them.
Plateau
Oh.
is success, essentially.
Yeah.
Stagnation is fun.
Just things. I have just like general things that I love though. It's kind of a little bit all over the place, but just the factions, how much I love them. Like you go into Warhammer for me, like as a young guy, a young kid, 13, 14 years old, and like you see a Space Marine and you read about them, and it's just like the most incredible thing you could imagine. They're and like even like nowadays, I still just absolutely love them. They're such incredible like displays of brotherhood and masculinity, and like they're monk-like and warlike at the same time, and they embody the tiny sliver of hope that's left in the Imperium, and they are like the epitome of doing one's duty and like fighting to the end and just doing what you're meant to do to death. Just so incredible. And on the other side, the Sisters of Battle are such a great just paragons of sisterhood and devotion and zeal and unshakable faith. I just love their zealotry so much. The Tau, you know what? For all Tau haters out there,
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. He's getting
Here
a
There
show.
we go. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
Bit of a nipple.
I'm flexing on you.
Got
I'm
him.
flexing on all the Tau haters right now. I really like the Tau. I think they're freaking cool. I like
Weakest
their
point
old
us.
their old picture.
Corvisa.
They got their new stuff. I kind of like. I understand why people don't like the newer Tau as much, but their old aesthetic is so cool. I like their newer like new fancy aesthetic, and I think it's okay to have a faction that is full of hope and that an innovation, and that they still think that things can be okay. And it
They
especially
don't
works.
know any better.
Yeah, it especially works because they're often proven wrong, and then they're like curb stomped. But then they're just extremely naive all the time. But then they get up again, and they keep it moving. The Necrons, yeah, the Necrons.
There's a great one of the 3 books in the Book of Martyrs, which is a Sororitas book, has Sister Anarchis. She's captured by the by an ethereal and the Tau, and they were like, "Oh, we think we understand you, and we're trying to figure out how your faith powers work," and blah blah. Mm-hmm. She's like, "Disgusting blue freaks," and she's really, 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 really vitriolic against them. And at the end of it, she manages to kill the ethereal and mess everything up. And it's like, you guys, you think you know everything, and that's why your flaw is your arrogance. It's like, yeah, your railguns are pretty cool. Like Dreadnoughts means like, come on, let me shoot my railgun. And then the orc's like, hold on, I've got another roll. It's like, your arrogance is your downfall. And it's like the Imperium is like the most adjacent faction of like, we had the glory you're currently experiencing, and more so, learn from your predecessors. You know, it's that
Can I
kind of
just
thing
add
where-
in a comment
ironic.
from Azure Andy says, I was there when Horus showed Nip.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My favorite Tau scene is the one in the Farsight novel where the librarian of the Scar Lords, I think, is fighting Farsight, and all the others, they're on a Tau planet that had Tau slaves on it. It's like a lava planet, and basically this Tau slaves are being broken out. This librarian attacks Farsight, and all the slaves just like bust out of the thing. They climb on him and drag him into the lava. And then the Farsight just goes, yeah, because we have teamwork. And then basically like people going for the greater good, and there's like body ass like RKO body slam this space marine. But by the way, he says when he's punching, he's at least eviscerating 2 per punch, but they still like climb him like ants. So love Tau in that regard.
Yes,
Eli, I'm very sorry, but my favorite Tau scene is DJ Beast brought it up. It's the scene with Kato Sakura.
Okay.
Tau's talking to an Ultramarine like, you wouldn't hit a defenseless diplomat, would you?
Yes, I would.
Justin goes, yes.
But that's awesome. Like that's still so. Even as a Tau fan, those moments are so incredible, because reading the Tau books, like sometimes I want them to get proved wrong and I want them to lose, because they're just so freaking arrogant, and they think they know what's going on, but in reality, like, they're a tiny little sliver compared to the Imperium.
Yeah. And there's something endearing about them being like, oh, we're enlightened. And it's like, doesn't matter. We're going to crunk you. Like, there's something about like, oh, you should be in charge of the universe, but you're too small. Squish.
Yeah.
There's just like a fun bit of hubris in that. I don't know.
There's literally a, oh no, oh yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
To be fair to
Um,
that Watercast diplomat, the Marine she was talking to was hesitating. Unfortunately,
which-
Basto
It's a good job.
Sakari
It's a good job.
That is,
not
it's one of
hesitate.
the best scenes in like all of Warhammer, in my opinion. It's so
I
awesome.
feel like I have a quote on my phone from that Anarchia book because it was so like, oh, it hit me. It was so vitriolic. I'll see if I can find it, but don't mind me.
You said Necrons, didn't
Yeah.
you? Necron.
Yeah, Necron. I will say though, the DJ Beast also brought it up. The scene where Shavastos or Bravestorm, I don't remember which one, they take a sample of a dreadnought in one of the first engagements with the Imperium, and he discovers it's older than their entire species,
Mm.
and he just like freaks out for a minute, which is awesome. Anyways, but yeah, the Necrons are another. Moving on, to talking about my favorite factions, I guess, but they're like the Necrons are literally the rightful rulers of the galaxy. They freaking they took what's theirs and then went to sleep. Basically, I love their this perspective of their faction and how utterly pathetic and tiny and worthless everyone else is compared to them, and how from our perspective they're dead men walking, right? They're the epitome of death, and they're just absolutely terrifying. Arguably one of the most horrible factions to face in 40k. But from their perspective, they're just like a bunch of arguing robots. But they still have a semblance of like honor and tradition left in their society, and some of them still follow those codes. Which there's even good left in them, which is so cool. Gene Stealer cults, they get a lot of hate as well. But you know what? Another flex for the Gene Stealer
For
haters.
the boys.
Their Gene Stealers, I think, are a perfect faction for Warhammer, even though people don't like them because they're literally fighting to lose. But that's what makes them so awesome and so perfect for Warhammer. And their perspective is so fun, and it's such a great thing to base a faction on, with their extreme devotion and zeal towards towards the Emperor, which they think is the Emperor, but in reality it's just the Tyranids, and how they think the Tyranids are angels of the Emperor and his children, and all this plotting and scheming to rise up and free their people from oppression and have better lives for everyone else. And in the end, they achieve their holy union with the Star Children. And maybe that's a win, maybe it's not.
I love
There's
my
some-
Lovecraftian. My love. This is the modern iteration of Lovecraftian books, which doesn't suck. I won't lie, because Lovecraft books are cool in concept, and then when you read them, you're like, hurry the fuck up.
And then you can't say the names of some of the characters.
the gods are cancelled, literally.
I found those Sororitas quotes
Shove
if you'd like to
something.
hear them, by the way.
Oh, yes, please.
So the first one is how Anarchia had learned to hate the gormless, self-satisfied expressions of the Tau since they had made Planetfold. Wrinkled and bald, save for their stylized topknots, the Xenos were the bluish-grey of sea-dwelling crustaceans. But they had no real strength under their hides. They were feeble of limb and milky of eye. A species so small and weak, they had no option but to master technology, or else be wiped from the face of the galaxy. Second one, as the ambassador came forward, his robe swished to and fro, as if he were walking to attend a fashionable dinner rather than continue an interrogation. In her experience, the Tau wore long robes that they kept fastidiously clean when not in their contoured mesh and plate armor. For all their shiny war tech, she knew from experience that Tau armor would be no protection against the penetrative power of a bolt shell. The holy weapons of the Adeptus Sororitas were more than capable of slaying the creatures in great numbers, even when fully dressed for battle. What a glorious mess a single bolt round would make of this dressed-up fool. And finally, she says, "Keep your platitudes, poor Belgoy," she said, unable to keep a half sneer from her lips. "I spit upon your greetings." "It is pronounced pauvre Belgai," said the diplomat, "though I cannot expect your lumpen tongue to shape such nuanced phonemes." His Imperial Gothic was impressive, so fluent and well-practiced it sounded almost like it came from a human throat. Anarchia shook her head in disgust. She could shape the syllables of her interrogator's name just fine. She just chose not to. One of her few pleasures over the past few days had been to undermine, inflame, and annoy her captor at every available opportunity. I love
awesome.
that.
Hell yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Freaking Tau.
They make for such good stories, and because you root for them and you root against them at the same time. They're so freaking snobby, where like the Eldar are sloppy, but they can back it up. The Tower just goofballs, but it's also big. It's cool when they win. I would like to see them fight more than just Space Marines, I guess.
I mean, the Tower, like, oh, you're doing pretty good for a young species, whereas the Necrons is like, you guys, you got mechanical dementia. That's a shame.
Mhm.
Poor guys.
Yeah.
Like the guy,
Oh.
summon the monoliths. Like, yes, later. Poor guy.
Love me Necrons. I also
Mm.
Gene Stealer cults again. I like the perspective of how all their like hideous and terrifying mutations to an outside observer are just disgusting and horrid, but to them they're blessings from the four-armed emperor, and they're like beautiful and envious of people are envious of all their mutations and all the wacky goofball stuff. But
Mm.
oh my gosh, I think they're just perfect. The Imperial Guard, naturally. I also have the Eldar. I forgot to put them on here, but that's just Eldar books don't really exist anyway, so it's fine. But
What
I love
Eldar
the
armor though? This is the point where we have to either agree or disagree. Eldar armor, yay or nay?
yay.
Yay.
Well,
Yay.
perfect
I-
for what they do. It's awesome. It's just cool.
I mean, I think the interesting thing about, like, as someone who's like not really like a fan of Eldar, I still think they have a distinct and interesting look. I like the soul gems. I like the saturated color schemes. I like, even though I have limited knowledge of the Eldar, I can look at them and go, that's an Eldar. Even though I don't necessarily know the nuances, I'm like, oh, I like that. They've got the flowing robes. They've got sharp, pointy bits of their armor. It fits the aesthetic. I don't know. Like, I understand, like, light armor in Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls is kind of cool if its flourishes and everything. I kind of like the power armor aesthetic as long as it's got a combination of filigree and boldness, if that
Great
makes
Guard are
sense.
so cool.
Yeah.
It's all cool. I love the Eldar aesthetic so much.
And in Bestcraft World.
Feels it.
All right.
Yand and boys.
You like
this
slime
Shan
hand.
boys. This Titans
Oh, yeah.
corpse.
Is there anything else you want to add to the growing horde of love, Eli?
Yeah, I
Or
have a
should
little
you-
bit more to talk about because I want the Imperial Guard. I've been getting into lately.
Get into the guard. Go on.
Yes.
They're
We love the guard.
Yeah, because their stories are so incredible, and they really are the true heroes of the Imperium, and there's so much variety with the thousands, hundreds, whatever, thousands of different regiments. Yeah. Every story you read about them is full of both tragedy and heroism, and the characters rely on nothing but their own will and steely nerve to fight the most terrifying things in the galaxy against insurmountable odds. It's inspiring, similar to the like ODSTs and Spartans and Army and Halo. I think the Halo stories are so great because they're all so desperate, and a lot of the Imperial Guard stories are similar to that. They have no enhancements or in-depth like psycho conditioning to be fearless and super strong, but they're still out there. Characters like Lucas Bastone is incredibly inspiring and show how far a man can go in such a dark and terrible universe. The guy still went back to a Nurgle infested planet to save one guy from his squad, and
Nice.
like you don't see that every day. There's still men that fight for what's right and for the survival of his people.
It's like, imagine the Band of Brothers TV series, but that's every Imperial Guard book. And like you said, the parallel of Halo. It's like, imagine Halo without the Spartans. It's just ODST at best. It's just blokes. It's just guys and gals fighting with guns, doing their best and being heroic. There's none of this super soldier stuff because they're not around. It's just you do what you can.
That wasn't a snub at the ODSTs.
No. It's just like ODST are amazing, but it's like that's the peak. It's not like you go ODST and then you go Spartan 2s and then you go Spartan 3s and Spartan 4s. It's like, no, it's like that's the cap. That's the hard limit for the guard.
What was the quote, Colin, you had about, was it the guard, the Imperium would fall within a certain...
It was, I like I said, I can't remember for the life of me if it's official or if I read it on like Reddit or it might have been common.
I know the one you mean,
But it was like, if the Space Marines all disappeared, the Imperium would fall in a year. If the Mechanicus disappeared, it'd fall in a month. And if the Guard disappeared, it'd fall in a day.
Yeah.
That just kind of
it's
hit
just
hard, that one. Doesn't
Force
it?
of numbers. There's trillions of guardsmen.
But like I don't if you think there are no good guys in 40k, you should read some Imperial Guard books, and it'll probably change your mind.
Yeah,
Because
and
there's,
some of the
there's
stories,
good men and good women out there.
like I love the Mordian Iron Guard, where they have that whole thing where they're like, "Hey, we're on our planet of Mordian, and we're just defending." And they push back a Chaos Space Marine and demon infestation of their homeworld, and they just keep pulling back and pulling back and pulling back until they get to like their final stronghold, until eventually, because another detachment of reinforcements are, they have astropaths and psychers, and they're getting rid of the tether to the warp, and eventually they cut the tether, and then the demons all disappear, and it's like they're the only guard regiment, I think, that survived an invasion of their homeworld, and it's like that's pretty cool. And then you got the Catachan guys who just like
the
stab,
beat the
stab,
Night
stab,
Lords.
yeah, and like all these, and the Talon clapping the Iron
Talon,
Warriors,
yes.
Oh, man, I love
Cadia
the
with its
Talon
last
so
stand,
much,
like
dude.
so many of them where it's just like, oh, the like, if let's be honest, if any of us were in the 40k universe, at best we'd be in a regiment. We would be Space Marines. I mean, like Eli might, 'cause he's jacked, but like, I mean, for the rest of us, it's like
Thanks,
we're
buddy.
probably best Administratum, maybe Astropaths, maybe Guard.
Fodder.
Fodder.
Yeah.
We'd be a servitor. Let's be honest, boys.
Oh, here's a question then: if you were to pick an Imperial Guard regiment you could serve under, which would you pick?
God, I was like picking which one. How do I get punched
What's
in
your
the
favorite?
face?
What's your favorite ice cream? If also someone dunked your face in it,
Yeah.
Either the Vestroyan Firstborn, because they have some very nice
Drip.
equipment, or
Yeah.
and Drip, or the Valhallan 597th, because Caiaphas Kane is there, and I simply will not die because I'm
Yeah.
next to him.
I was gonna say Vestroyans as well. The Talon
If
are
I'm
also cool though, and Talon and Catachan are also cool though, and I think your odds of survival are a lot higher in a regiment like Talon or Catachans who use tactics that you might actually walk away from, right?
Probably Talon myself. Yeah, just to live long enough to be able to tell the tale.
Catachan would mean you'd be an instant badass, but you have to live on Catachan, and
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think I can do that. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna die.
Oh, I had tiny bit more. Sorry, I'm excited.
Keep going.
Sorry, okay. Just more like how much I love the tiny, because most people in Warhammer are bad guys, obviously, but the little amounts of good guys make it just so much better because there are good people out there. There's like tiny little shivers of hope. Characters like what did I write here? Like Farsight, Lucas, who I mentioned earlier, Yerrick and Kane, Anshi, even like Jazeris from Twice Dead King was a noble and honorable guy who had a lot of good intentions and he was a good guy. Like you could tell, at least from the book's perspective, right, that he was a good guy. Shadow Sun Mercy kills a White Scar so that he doesn't have to be in a dreadnought, and she honorably fights Khan, and they respect each other. People like Eldrad, Eldrad clearly has good intentions, and he was willing to do what none of his people were willing to do, even though he'd gladly see all of humanity extinct, right? But he still put himself out there and did the work to try to stop the most evil forces in the universe. And unfortunately, because of GW writing, chaos is evil, and there's really no arguing against that, I don't think, as much as I would like to. But the way that they've written chaos nowadays, there's just no redeeming factor like there used to be. Yeah. But like I think there's crystal clear examples of there being good guys in Warhammer, and it's just like in real life, no one is perfect, no one's free of sin, right? We've all done bad things, but like people are still good people, like. Yeah,
that's the thing. I know there's been like a few debates recently about like there's no good guys, but it's like there are good guys. It's just like it's easy. I think the quote is something like, "It's easy to be a good person in good circumstance, but when you live in a tough environment and you live under a regime or whatever, it's really exceptional to find someone who fights against that or does or rejects it, because it's like." You're playing on home advantage when it's like, oh, I live in a democracy and I have running water and electricity and all these things. It's like that's not a test of character or morals. It's like when you like live in those really difficult times that real character comes out, shall we say? And 40k is like on the extreme end of that. It's like, yes, you have running water, but we also tie a bunch of our people, and there is no such thing as unions or workers' rights or freedoms, and enjoy your corpse starch. Oh, that's how it is it? Oh, okay.
I think it also shows like the truly good people don't necessarily have an impact
Yes.
in the way they
Yeah.
wish they would, because they can't play within the so-called game, if you know what I mean. Like a good regimental commander, or even like Yarick, a good commissar still has to shoot men and women that he respects, because he has to think of the team. And if this person's like failing, even though they're like, oh, I like you, but you know, you've got to go. Sorry, bro.
And I know, for example, who is it? Snatter mentioned that like Angron grew up on a crappy home. I was like, yeah, kind of made his trajectory. He was going to be a shitty person, but like the Lion grew up fighting in a forest, killing stuff with his bare fists as a child. But he turned out like he had his problems, but he still figured it's like Gilliman and Jagdai had good parents. You know, Jagdai had his great father. Gilliman had a father and a mother. Fair enough. Like circumstance does so much to a person's upbringing and how they grow as a person.
I mean, there's that bit between Gilliman
And
and
they're
Angron.
demigods.
Gilliman and Angron, when they battle, and then Angron basically yells at him like, "Oh,
You know
perfect,
nothing,
Gilliman!
Angron's
you know
like,
nothing."
Courage and honor. Do you even understand the meaning of those words?
Yeah,
I
you
grew up
had-
on a slave world. You were like spoon-fed, you bitch.
You know,
Yeah, like you
poor
had
guy.
parents, you had everything given to you. No one, and you
Yeah.
complain about not turning out
My
fine.
foster father and mother put nails in my brain. What up? You know.
But that's
it's
what
stuff.
really separates good people from great people, though, is that, yeah, of course, like you had a good uprising and now you're good, but someone who had a bad upbringing and they turn out good in the end is what really makes a good person, right?
Yeah. I know it's kind of cliche. It's like that Schindler's List example where it's like, yeah, he was like, I know in the film they embellished it where at the end he's just like, I could have saved more, but it's like that didn't happen. But like the sentiment is the same. It's like, yeah, in tough times people step up, and that's kind of the main important thing.
Oh, I got $2 from Crimson Glory twice now. Thank you, Crimson Glory.
Thank you,
Blood
Crimson.
Pact are indeed the best Renegade Legion. They're very cool.
Oof. Yes.
Same with Sons of Sek.
Thank you, Crimson Glory. I think the last one though, Andy, why do you love Warhammer? It's your turn to be in the spotlight, I think.
Right. Well, because I'm last, and also because I think you've all done a stellar job with explaining lots of things from the miniatures, the lore, and the setting. I just want to focus on one thing in particular, which I think is a nice capstone for the whole thing, and is like, I love the community. I've been doing a YouTube channel now for 2 years. I think I've got the shortest tenure of any of the guys here tonight. I'm a post-COVID lad in that regard. But I've been doing YouTube for a few years, and it's only been in the last couple that I've been successful enough to be able to do it full time. And I've absolutely loved creating content about Warhammer. And you know, when we went to Warhammer Fest, I met up with Colin and Hal. Hopefully, this next year, Eli, if you're free,
Yes.
I want to give you
again.
I want to give you the biggest bear hug that I'm going to pop your biceps. I swear.
I'd love to.
I'll give you a big cuddle.
We'll have to bring something to do with us as well, like armies there, because I feel like that was the main thing they wanted us to do.
And
Great
it's just
armies.
like, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say that I find purpose and fulfillment retelling stories from the universe, and I'm so grateful and lucky to be able to do this full time. And the community is unlike any community for any fantasy setting in the world. Like Star Wars has its ups and downs. Lord of the Rings has had a TV series recently, but it's not as active as other IPs. You know, there are so many fantasy and sci-fi settings, and they all ebb and flow, but Warhammer is constant. And I think because of the fact that we have so many talented writers that contribute books and codex entries and supplements, we have so many amazing artists. And like Warhammer is a specifically unique hobby in that practically most of the people who are into it are creative. Like, even if you don't think that you're a creative person, if you've painted a miniature, you're a creative person. You've sat down, you've got a paintbrush, and you've said, I'm going to express myself, and I'm going to add a little tiny portion to the setting. Or even if it's replicating an existing legion or chapter, you're adding your own little piece of like you're adding your own little brick to the wall, to the fortification, to the structure of the community. And I love it when I see brand new painters learning how to get better at the craft and then eventually becoming professional painters. I love seeing lore channels or meme channels. Like, I mean, we're getting to a point now where we're you know, I mean, me and Hal are coming up to 100. You two are already, Colin and Eli, were if we post 100, got your play buttons. We'll get you soon. We're catching up. But it's like, it's been really nice this last year in particular, like helping some of the smaller creators build a following, and just like we're not building it for them. We're just adding like advice and helping them along the way. And everyone in the community is so supportive and like rallying around new creators who have talent and pushing the hobby forward. And like the lore is so dense. There's so many of us who do lore because there's so much to cover, and we can do it through being accessible. We can do it through being cinematic. We can do it through being comedic. There's all these avenues, and every single video we do and everyone else in our sphere who does a video, it adds to that caliber of why this is the best hobby in the world, in my opinion. Because again, it's so vast that it takes a community of people to break it down into digestible chunks where we can say, hey, it's, you know, it's really cool, but it's intimidating and it's vast. So let us like hold your hand and bring you through like a bit of the painting. If you're a beginner, bring you through some of the lore, tell you about some of our favorite books or some cool characters, or, you know, some of the memes that you'll get very acquainted with, you know. And I don't know, it might sound twee, it might sound a bit saccharine, but I mean, I just think that Warhammer is specifically unique in that because it's a 40-year-old IP, because it's been going so long, because there are more books in this IP than any other. I don't think there's any other franchise that has this vastest like amount of content in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many video games, and there's so many, like, we're getting a TV show soon. Like Henry Cavill, Kingsman from the Channel Islands, he signed off. It's going ahead. They're writing scripts. They're going to be making stuff. Like, it's happening. And I think we're all so lucky to have such a brilliant community supporting us and other creators to make Warhammer, whether it's 40K, whether it's fantasy, old world, or old times, I should say, or Age of Sigmar. Like, I don't know. I think the community is better than any other community. And again, any creator who says our community is the best is kind of like, oh yeah, that's the done thing.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
sure.
but like, I think honestly that the Warhammer community is the most interesting, creative, loyal, and brilliant community there is on the planet. Just because there's so many avenues that people can get involved into it. And I'm sorry if that sounds a bit kind of...
No, let him cook. Let him cook.
Bless you, Andy. Bless you.
Bless you. And thank you again to Crimson Glory for another donation.
And some fellow before that. As you,
Sorry, I'll just go before that. Sorry, Crimson. Back in a sec, Crimson. As you're Andy, you put, love you guys in this community. I work night shifts, so some good books for a listen. Oh, so what are some good books for a listen other than you guys? We'll come to that in a second. And Crimson Glory, he put, cheers to you, Andy. Keep on keeping on. To the Law Crime crew, I hope to meet you all someday. If you're ever at Warhammer Fest, buddy,
awesome.
And someone ever recognizes us, you can
that'd be great.
have a go. Books recommendations. There's the classic Horrors Rising, Eisenhorn. If you're a newcomer, if you're a bit more into the lore, and I'd recommend if you want more human level thing, anything Yarrick, I would recommend Human Thing. Space Marine books, if you're thinking Horrors Heresy and something like that. I think I said it earlier, like 1,000 Suns is a great novel because you don't have to read anything before that to start at that one. Just a great book in general, and just a general book. What's a book that I can think of that I really like that's just not on the usual like suspects? I had to look at my own channel now to think of like books. You know, I've done. You know, you've read so many like things
Yeah,
that you
for
just
real.
kind of it all blends
Kind
into
of
one
meld.
at some point. Yeah,
I-
melding.
That's Gotrek and Felix for me. Those are all one book that kept on going, as far as I'm concerned.
I
May
mean,
I offer something that I found really
Yeah.
interesting recently? Just because I was doing all Blood Angels content last month, I read the Blood Angels Omnibus, which is about Sergeant Raffen. There was a lot of stuff in those books. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And no one talks about it, like the Blood Angels Civil War. And I was like,
Hmm.
what? And it's like, oh, yeah, like Raffen had a blood brother, his like younger brother, who was like the reborn Sanguinius. And there's a lot of weird stuff. And like Astaroth the Grim afterwards is like, I'm going to cut your head off. He's like, no, don't. And then he kills Fabius Bile like 4 times, but it's the clone, so it doesn't go. It's like, this is really cool. And like, it's that whole thing of old lore doesn't get the limelight a lot, but it's really cool when you delve into it.
Yeah.
last few ones are people rightly point out Caiaphas Cain, clearly the Death Guard, clearly.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
That's a joke, by the way, for people before they think they look up Death Guard. Caiaphas Cain, damn good one there. I forgot what I was going to say now, damn it. But the other one, damn it, no, Godric and Phoenix
Yeah.
is always a great book, to be fair. And what was the one I was looking
Vortecless.
for?
Vortecless.
White Scars.
White Scars. Ooh.
White Scars.
Yeah,
The book
of
called
course.
Scars, which is about
That is
Chagatai
great.
Khan, is the best Primarch book
Mhm.
because it just is. Don't know why. The guy Chris Wright who writes
Chris Wright is brilliant.
it's probably is now like kind of the best author at the moment, where like his books just hit solidly and he's not missing. You know, when the guy
That's right.
that guy is cooking in good
Yeah.
law.
Let me pull up a special omnibus that
Oh,
shocked
here we
no
go.
one
Here
that I
we
own.
go.
Gravy.
Oh, here we go.
See
Exciting.
where I put that bad boy.
List of VTubers.
So many chairs in his bedroom.
VTubers with Boston accents.
There's some prime reading material right here. It's just called L.
Elves.
Nice. I have that. I have that book. I have that book, Colin.
And it's not even
Elves.
elves. It's just
Yeah.
Nope,
elves.
it's because
The
it's
good old
fantasy
days
original.
before
popular-
Just elves.
Oh, may I recommend a Space Marine Battles novel?
Oh, nice.
Believe it or not,
Mm.
Pandorax is a really,
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool
Yes.
With what's his name? Epithemius from the Dark Angels.
book. Yeah, that's probably
Original
the,
Titan.
Yeah, that's probably the best Space Marine novel I've ever read. For like
Poor
newer-
guy, though.
newer
Jeez.
stuff.
In
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
book.
that ending.
it makes Grey Knights look so cool though, and even like
Mm.
the Catachans and everybody that. And if I don't know if you can find an audio book for it, but Fire Warrior. If you don't like, if you think Tower
Cool.
like freaking pansies, you should read Fire
the
Warrior.
Doomslayer of the Tau.
Oh my
He has his
gosh.
own book.
Farsight's great as well. I was
Farsight books are
surprised at how
awesome.
great the Farsight
Yeah.
books are.
Those are
Those
my
are
favorite
honestly-
series, and the
those-
Fabius Bile series is phenomenal.
Mm.
The Twice Dead
Mm.
King books, obviously, I'm a big fanboy for them.
Infinite Divine.
It's a cheeky
Slaps.
book.
It's a
I mean,
great book.
I must admit, I enjoyed Twice Dead King more than Infinite and Divine.
Yeah, me too.
If I'm personally. Yeah.
I think Infinite Divine's more of a like that should be someone's first Warhammer book because it just that will you'll never look at Warhammer. You'll be like, oh, that's flipped what I thought Warhammer is, and this way
It has a nice like introduction of here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a thing. Like, oh, here's a bit of Gene Stealers. Here's some Inquisitor.
Honestly,
oh, cool.
I'd recommend Infinite Divine for people who aren't even into Warhammer. I think it's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just a nice
Eisenhorn.
book.
Eisenhorn books, the trilogy. I don't know if we said that already,
Hmm.
but
I think
I just have one book that's just not Warhammer, but I've read recently, and I just if someone's working night shift, they got to get through hours. By the way, this book is good. It's has anyone heard of Stormlight Archive?
oh my gosh, don't get me started.
Yeah,
I love
The
me.
Way
I
of
love
Kings.
oh my gosh, Way of Kings is one of the best books ever.
The Way of
Holy
Kings,
cow.
by the way, is like by Brandon Sanderson. I
Brandon
believe,
Sanderson.
who, by the way,
A machine.
I only learned his name because he was recommended by Henry Cavill in an interview. He said that guy's cooking some serious
Nice.
fantasy books. Colin, Andy, it's a long audiobook, I won't lie. It's like 30 hours. But
okay.
It's
but
really good.
honestly, it's one of the few books where you kind of go, I really need to stop listening to this because it's too long. I need to like do stuff, but it's just cooks good. And Brandon Sanderson is one of the few
Just,
fantasy writers who, by the way, the guy is like the opposite of whatever J.R. Martin
George
is.
Martin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the opposite of that. This guy is constantly bashing them out, and he even says like
Industrious.
he puts like a
Literally insane.
clock timer on his website saying this is when the book will be done, and I'm
Guy-
working on 3 books at the same time.
Guy finishes series for other authors who have like died or can't finish.
He finished the Wheel of
his.
Time.
Yeah, and then
because-
makes his
Probably
own
be
books at
doing
the
that
same
for a Song
time.
of Ice and Fire.
Oh yeah,
Honestly, he's the only person who could.
everyone wants him to, but George won't let him. So
Well, maybe if
George
George would
don't.
write his
Well,
goddamn book, he wouldn't
George
need to.
has a
his-
contingency plan with a couple of writers who are like the most nerdy into the lore Game of Thrones people, and I know this for a fact. He has a contingency that if he passes away, they know where the book's going and they can finish it.
I
But
didn't
it's
know.
like, George, just finish the book and you can be alive when it premieres.
Yeah,
It'll be
I think-
great.
I
You
think
can have a
Brandon-
glass
I
of
don't think he'll-
wine
I
and
don't
some
think he'll write the
cheese, and it'll
last
be
book.
great.
I don't
never
think
finished
Brandon
the
really.
last one.
Yeah, I don't think Brandon Sanderson's style is really fits Game of Thrones world, anyways. 'Cause Brandon
Brandon's just a
Sanderson,
bit too like
is-
the people like seem like Game of
they're
Thrones
good.
is.
They can be good people. There's actual
Yeah.
hope in it and that stuff. Yeah,
They're like
and
kind of
also
they're
he's-
decent people there.
yeah, and his books are just as much about the like universe than as the characters, right? So
Do that Game of
Well,
Thrones is
world building.
that. I like Game of Thrones just because of
mhm.
like the actual like map and things like that, and like
Yeah.
dragons and a shy and stuff.
The only thing about like Game of Thrones is like, as far as I can tell, it's like similar to how I perceive Star Wars, where it's like Game of Thrones is kind of ended. At least with the TV show, it's like there was the stuff that happened before, and then this happened, and it's kind of over. Like, where do you go from? Oh, we've killed the
House of
White
the
Walkers.
Dragon, yeah, is prequel.
Well, that-
We've
yeah, that was-
united all the kingdoms. Bran's king. Like the conflict's over.
Listen,
So
we
who
don't need
cares?
to bring up everyone's trauma about season 8 Game of Thrones.
Well,
do we?
yeah, Game of Thrones, I think, did an exceptional job at killing every bit
yeah.
of hype that franchise had.
Yeah,
House of the Dragon is somewhat reviving that, and
but it's a
people are
prequel, right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's still bringing interest into the setting as much as like Warhammer. I mean, to be fair, if it would, the equivalent is like them essentially going. So then Gilliman died, and then like fucking Trajan, whoever the captain of the Custodians is, becomes the new emperor or something. You'd be like, oh, huh? You know, that would be like, and then the Warhammer's over and it's 50k. Like that would, that's honestly the equivalent.
I know. I wrote a treatment for a new Star Wars trilogy. I could renew Star Wars. I have a trilogy idea, but I don't have any idea what they would do with Game of Thrones. It's like, it's kind of over.
Star Wars doesn't know what it is
Yeah.
in terms of like Warhammer knows what question / what theme it's tackling. It's tackling
Sorry.
a surviving like it's basically Warhammer is survival and holding on, whereas Star Wars doesn't know what it's trying to do anymore because it should have ended at Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like the treatment I have is like it would be like uninvolved. It would be like leave Luke and all the
Battle of Endor, and that's
Yeah.
it.
It's like
That's
leave it
it.
alone and do something new rather than we're gonna have more Skywalkers.
I think Kill
Somehow
Harry in the chat
Palpatine
here, he
returns.
put Star Wars is dead earlier, and he's put it again. So,
Yeah.
that might have been an
I-
hour ago. He says Star Wars is
Oh
dead.
man, that's
so
my
yeah,
biggest
it's fine.
fear is for Warhammer to become like Disney-fied.
Don't worry.
from
Like
Star
as
Wars.
far as I can tell, like as a fellow Channel Islander, Henry's Warhammer's in good hands with the TV show with Henry.
Yeah,
And
I don't
here's the
doubt
thing.
that.
When you think about like there's like 20 writers or so on retainer for Black Library,
Mhm.
even if one fucks up a book, it's a drop in the bucket. Like
Mhm.
it's now one of the other thing that's interesting about Warhammer is like it's a communal effort. There's no George Lucas, there's no George R. Martin. It's
Or
like
Kathleen Kennedy.
it's like there is a community of writers, and even with the Horus Heresy series, they were collaborating and weaving the narrative and figuring out what happened. And let's be honest, there are duds. there are duds
Yes,
in
there
the
are.
Horus Heresy books,
Oh my
but
god.
it doesn't affect
Damnation
the.
of Pythos, my dick.
It doesn't affect the end and the death because again, Dan Abnett is a king, and he's, as far as I can tell, best writer for because they're at the start, they're at the end. It's like fair enough, but like there are so many writers involved, and even if there are duds in that series, there's so many other pocket series and other things like the Siege of Terror books and blah blah blah. Even when there's duds, there's so much potential and there's and there's so much freedom for them to create things. And even the video games like Space Marine 1 and 2 or Dark Tide or all these little story and this is something that Warhammer has as an ace up its sleeve. There are so many series that are just like it has to be a big laser beam in the sky and it has to be the end of the world. Warhammer has the advantage of, oh, it can just be a story about a guy trying to save his family from a Tyranid swarm. Oh, it can just be about a Tau dissident in the Farsight Enclave. Oh, it can just be about an Eldar trying to find an artifact somewhere in space. It doesn't have to be a world-ending story because who cares? There's a million worlds. It's like,
Are you telling me there shouldn't be a new Death Star planet?
no, there
It
shouldn't
should
be.
blow up multiple worlds, multiple laser beams.
It's
Oh
four
my
times
gosh,
bigger and it
man.
can blow up 4 times the planets at once. That's how you know it's better.
Oh.
That's why it's called Starkiller.
Why was that? Why was I okay with that in
I-
2014, and then I'm suddenly
yeah.
A
angry?
different time. A different time. By the way, Crimson Glory donated another
Thank you.
Thank you,
$499.
Crimson.
Every franchise is great till a multi-million-dollar company is involved.
I'm not as worried this time, Crimson, just because I think people, particularly Amazon and Disney, have sort of seen the failure in terms of
It rings a bell.
in trying to basically make product.
Yeah.
Like the content from Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, particularly in franchises that like have an end date.
Yeah.
Like there was we finished the character arc, and from now on it was just content. I think that's the ultimate mistake of it, which is they essentially made they didn't have a. They admit they didn't have a plan, did they? I think Andy.
Well,
you probably know.
yeah. I mean, J.J. Abrams came in and they were like, here's Ryan Johnson. He went, ugh. And then he had to salvage it and they didn't plan. But like, here's what I think is good. Like, Henry quit The Witcher because he didn't like how they were treating the source material. He's the executive producer of the Warhammer TV shows. And he left The Witcher, like one of the most popular TV series of modern times,
Oh my beloved.
because of creative differences. And he has, as far as I'm aware at least, complete creative control over how the series are going to go. You can't get a better proponent.
We're not going to get luckier than that, to be honest.
Mhm.
And as long as
Yeah.
we had to all be prepared for the fact that something will be, it won't be an exact copy, because I don't think no matter what book adapt, I mean, even our beloved Lord of the Rings trilogy is not an exact, there are missing elements
Yeah.
from the books in that. So it's not going to, just remember, like, it won't be perfect, like a perfect representation of what you've read in the books, but you just want it to be like something that's faithful in terms of the themes.
Yeah.
And then
And
if they hit that mark, I'm not letting my heart get too invested in this thing.
and the other advantage it has is, again, like, unlike the Rings of Power or all these myriad Star Wars shows, there's no flagship trilogy of films to compare it to. It can just be its own thing. It can be, hey, it's a TV show, and it can be whatever it wants to be as long as it's in the setting. There's no absolutely fantastic Peter Jackson trilogy, absolute one of the best film series ever made to compare it to. There's no, oh, we have to compare it to The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and New Hope. It's like, no, there's none of that. It's just like furtive ground. We just do what we want to do. Here is the setting. Here's the groundwork. I mean, call me an optimist. I think you couldn't get a better proponent to steer the ship than Henry Cavill. Not because I'm biased, because I'm also from the same place-ish, but like also because genuinely before he was even announced as being involved with the project, he was name-dropping Warhammer and just being like, hey, I love Warhammer. You're like, yep, king of the nerds, let him do what he does.
You brought
Surely-
up
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Jeff.
Connor.
first.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Surely they can't make it as bad as the Space Marine movie. So
Well, the thing is, it's not like bad. It's just
Yeah.
average. It's fine. Yeah.
It's so
yeah.
goofy.
And
I
it's also
actually really
like-
like watching that movie, but it's so
And it's
stupid.
also like beginning of CGI movie effects, so it's kind of
Yeah.
limited. Whereas now
I
it's
love
like,
watching
oh.
Ultramarines kill droves of Chaos Space Marines. It's
Yeah.
Well, they're
It's
charging at them
necessary.
with axes like,
So-
Don't they have
10,000 years
John
old. John
Oh,
Hurt, yeah.
The
they have all
voices, man,
sorts.
is crazy.
Karnak, yeah.
What was it you going to say,
it has some
Colin?
cool scenes though.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, Henry Cavill name drop a Blackstone Fortress. That's not
Yes.
something that you pick up a random Warhammer book
Yeah.
and it's like I'm
Yeah.
passing through. Like, no,
Yeah,
that
most
man-
people
that man
wouldn't
knows
know
stuff.
that in Warhammer.
Yeah.
Generally,
him
unless
and-
they
was it-
watched the Cadia.
He pointed out
cinematic.
about a chandelier too, like not like
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
this-
yeah. He was just
This
like, that
set
looks like a...
piece for my film reminds me.
He's
of
just
this.
like,
Yeah.
that looks like a Blackstone Fortress. And I feel like it wasn't Tom Holland, but he was chatting to someone in like an interview. He was just like, oh,
Tom
I've
Holland
been
was one
collecting-
of them. He's done it twice
Yeah.
now. He was talking,
And
to
he was
Tom
just like,
Holland
oh,
for
you
one of
collecting?
them.
It's like, oh, I'm collecting Necrons. Like, oh, I like custodians. And then like there were two ladies there. I think it was The Witcher just going,
Yeah.
What is
we're
happening?
talking about like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
My beloved Witcher got butchered. Why can't they
Yeah.
Look what they
leave?
did to my boy.
Bro, we don't.
Did the
They
Halo.
Oh, man.
don't. They
Yeah,
don't.
for
They
real.
don't give us the Slavic
By,
authenticity anymore. You know what I mean? Like we barely, we're either Russian supervillains or we're like Polish
Ah.
gruel
Russian.
soup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, bruh, Polska.
by the
we
way,
need to help.
Crimson Glory donated $2 saying, if it goes against the law, I'll donate $500.
Well,
To what?
well, hopefully there'll be a summit, right?
Oh man, we
Nah,
still owe you a Lethal Company stream, I believe.
We do. I think we have a versus stream coming up there, boys. So hopefully we'll
Mm-hmm.
all enjoy that though. But I think that might have been generally that our sort of we hopefully have covered why we
Yeah.
love
Mhm.
Warhammer and enjoy it so much. And hopefully, if you were listening to this, whatever you were doing, you're just relaxing or sort of maybe new to Warhammer, just kind of listening to 4 big forehead boys talk about Warhammer lore. So, or why you should get into it, or some of the things we enjoy about it. And you're probably thinking like, oh, what are some of the things you mentioned in that video? Go look it up.
Mhm.
Just go, and we'll apologize to your wallet later. I think though, is there anything else anyone else wants to add to that?
All I like to add is welcome to season 3 of Law Crimes.
Yeah, happy 2024, everyone, and thank you. And
Yeah.
if you made it this far, please like the video. And we processed that earlier.
That'd be nice.
That'd be nice.
I like
Thank you.
I'd springboard my last comments. Springboard off Andy. Community is pretty great. Met a lot of people. Met you 3 fine gentlemen. Met tons of
I
people.
gave you a
would never
hug.
have had.
At least one.
Indeed, was met plenty of people I would have had the fucking chance to talk to if not for it.
Mhm.
Accepting the Twitter community, but that's not Warhammer's
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
fucking cancer.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
God.
What's wrong with Instagram comments recently? I just noticed that. Why are
Hmm.
Instagram comments so trash? Never
I,
mind.
I,
sorry.
I got a pretty good Instagram following,
I'm-
but that's because I schizo post all the time.
I'm
It
too
kinda
small,
weeds
I don't
out
get
all
any
the-
That's my
comments.
Twitter.
it
People
weeds
just look
out
at my
all the
content, they
normies.
go, and then they move on.
But
Oh, but,
and my,
yeah.
my final parting comment, buy the Tomb Kings box. Come on, fellas. Let's keep
Petronia,
that
glory
going.
to
Come on.
Petronia, glory to Petronia.
I burn it out.
Grail
Well,
Knight's
shout
full,
out-
I
lady.
guess.
Say shout out to Arthur for his thing coming up.
Mm.
Speaking of
Oh
community,
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Arthur Bones is doing a 40k 40
yeah.
creators collaboration soon, so
And I will be talking about my
Yeah.
beloved Chazla Kais.
Hmm.
And
What did everyone else
Chazla
get,
Kais, I
by the way?
sneakily am choosing
I'll
Who
to
do
keep
you
mine a
think I
mystery.
got? What character do you think I got, Hal?
Throwboat girly man.
No.
think more elf.
No way.
Also, no.
What?
What, Uriel? Not Uriel.
Franz.
Yeah,
Oh, of
Carl-
course.
Carl Franz,
yes.
Carl Franz, Carl
I
Franz.
knew
You guys wouldn't guess who I got. I don't think you would.
I think I read it earlier, but I forgot already. So
Yeah.
Oh, did you already? Oh, well, give
Mortarion.
Fucking what
Damn
the
it!
heck?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Mortari, this guy. Wow.
yeah. He's not my favorite character, but he's actually a character I want to rant about specifically.
Hmm.
Yeah. Again, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Hopefully, we kept you entertained. If you're painting, if you're at work, or if you're just in bed trying to sleep. Good night. Good night, brothers. We love you.
Oh,
Good
you're still
night.
dreading on.
Sweet
You got
dreams.
here right at the end, dreading on. Where have you been?
No,
Oh.
Dread.
Oh.
Cheeky.
Love you long time, Dread.
Love you, Dread.
We love you all.
The fella. Hello, Drew.
I really
Goodbye,
like
Very
everyone.
Orthodox
Bye,
Christmas.
everyone.
We love
Glory
you
to the
all.
Tau
The Queen-
Empire.
Queen
Glory to
wave
the Tau
there.
Empire. Bye-bye, I love you.
See you later, boys.